Imagine is the year 1347. The thick air of medieval cities reeks of fear, burned herbs, and rotting flesh. The church bells ring on, but no longer calling to mass. Instead, they announce more deaths. The markets, once noisy and full, now only sad faces and eyes full of terror can be seen. And the doors of the houses appear marked with red crosses, a sign that the pestilence has entered and no one inside of them will come out alive. Hi, and welcome to the Shadows of the Plague, where today we will immerse ourselves in one of the history's darkest chapters, the Black Death. Join us as we uncover how this disease changed the world forever. Okay, so let's start with a little bit of context. The Black Death, also known as the Black Plague, was an epidemic that originated in Central Asia in the 14th century and was brought to Crimea by Mongol warriors and merchants. The plague first entered Europe through Italy, carried by rats or human parasites on Genoese merchant ships sailing from the Black Sea. This pandemic was caused by the bacterium Yersinia pestis, which of course caused millions of deaths and became one of the deadliest pandemics of not only the Middle Ages but in all history. The death toll was so high that it had significant consequences for medieval European society as a whole, like shortage of farmers, a widespread questioning of authority and rebellions, and the complete abandonment of many towns and villages. Once again, the worst plague in the human history, the one that would take Europe more than 200 years to recover its populations to pre-Black Death levels. But why was it called the Black Death? Well, it was called the Black Death because it could blacken the skin and sores, while other symptoms included fever, joint pain, and delirium. And later, death came around within 3 to 7 days for those infected. Also, the lack of medical knowledge and the unsanitary conditions of the time facilitated its rapid spread, as well as the incubation period that was more than 12 days. So also this pandemic had a profound cultural and religious impact, leading some to seek divine explanations and others to blame minorities such as Jews, resulting of course in persecutions and massacres. Finally, the Black Death was never completely eradicated, but its impact significantly diminished in Europe by the end of the 14th century, due to a combination of natural factors, social changes, and public health measures. And although the Black Death disappeared as a pandemic, smaller outbreaks continued to appear in Europe until 18th century.
Hello, good morning, I guess. Welcome to another Get Ready with me. I'm Juliano, and I've been sick for I don't know how many days. Yeah. Quick plague update. The fever's back. My joints feel like they've been crushed by a horse cart. I'm sweating through everything I own. It usually starts with a headache, then goes with chills, and then moves on with boobas. We call them like that, boobas. They are mostly in the neck. They are hella disgusting, let me tell you. Yeah. The people in the streets are saying that it's this death fever is spreading through fleas carried by rats, and it probably came to Europe through these trade routes, ships arriving from the east. That's a thing about this commerce shit. Sometimes it brings you silk, and sometimes it brings you death. Anyway, while I get ready for whatever today brings, the baker's boy, the one who used to whistle on his way to deliver bread, he died. Shit, yeah, he died 2 days ago. He was way younger than me, maybe 16. First it was the cough, then the boobas, then silence. This morning, the doctor passed through the street, one of those with the long beard, ass-like mask. They say the mask is filled with herbs and spices to filter out the bad air. He didn't speak to anyone. He just went house by house, knocking with a stick, checking if people were alive. He looked at me and nodded, and he moved on. Guess I still look enough like a human to not be put on the card. Oh man, how lucky I am, you know. Most of my days are now spent lying down, listening to the streets. Sometimes I hear the church bells ringing for the dead. Sometimes I hear nothing at all. Sip a little water I have left and try not to think about how everything smells like rot. Anyway, till next time, if there's one.
In this section, we will share some curious facts about this disease. 1. Did you know that the Yersinia pestis bacterium was mainly transmitted by fleas that lived on black rats? When these rats died, the fleas looked for new hosts, usually humans, spreading the infection. 2. It is estimated that the plague killed between 30% and 60% of the European population, resulting in the deaths of between 80 and 200 million people in total. 3. Without any scientific knowledge, doctors believed that death occurred when a spirit escaped from the eyes of the sick patient and struck a healthy person. Others thought it was caused by horrible smells or a punishment from God. 4. Many believed that Jews were responsible for the disease, claiming they had poisoned the sick because fewer of them were infected compared to Christians. In reality, this was due to better hygiene practices. 5. Doctors of that time wore the iconic and well-known pointy masks because they believed it purified the poisonous and infectious air supposedly released by the sick. In reality, it never protected them from any disease.
1348 Florence. The Black Death has arrived and no one was prepared. I am a doctor dressed in black from head to toe. My gun is made of leather covered in wax. My face is hidden by a mask with a long beak, not to protect me from sickness, but from the horrible smell of death. Inside the beak, I keep lavender, rosemary, and sweet herbs to block the stench. It came last year to Sicily on merchant ships. Now it has rushed through France, Genoa, and Florence. The disease spreads like fire. People fall ill within hours, high fever, black swellings in the armpit and neck, dark blood, death within 3 days. The authorities hire me, but they do not trust me. I do not trust my own methods either. I perform bloodletting, prepare infusions of vinegar, wormwood, and garlic. I burn sulfur in homes. Nothing works. The city smells like rot. We don't count deaths by the dozen anymore, but by the thousands. Some believe it's God's punishment. Others blame the Jews, the cats, the corrupted air. There are processions, but warnings. The innocent put to death, but still the dying do not stop. I wonder if we'll ever understand this. My task is not to heal, it is to count the dead, to comfort the living, and to keep composure. Today, I visited 5 homes. 3 were already marked with black crosses. In one, a little girl was still breathing. I held her hand. She died before I could speak to her. As I stepped outside, I saw the gravedigger waiting. He looked at me, shook his head, and carried her body like a sack of flour. They say this will pass, but over 25 million are already dead in Europe alone. A third of the continent. Some doctors have fled. I cannot. I am trapped with them. I share the same fate. Tomorrow I'll go out again. If I don't fall ill today, I will tomorrow. But still, I must go. Even without a cure, even without a hope.
So, back in the 1300s, people went through something huge, the Black Death. Millions of people died, like over 75 million. Cities were empty, people were scared, everything stopped. But here's the thing, it didn't just bring death, it also brought change. There weren't enough workers, so the whole economy had to shift. People started questioning the church, which had always been seen as untouchable. And slowly, this terrible time led to a new way of thinking, more human, more critical, more aware. Fast forward to 2020, and we kind of live our own version of that. COVID 19 hits. Empty streets again, everyone locked inside, and even with all of our technology, science, and instant messaging, the fear was real. We felt alone, confused, anxious, and just like in the past, people look for someone to blame or for easy answers. We like to think we have evolved so much, and we have. We got vaccines, social media, access to info in seconds, but emotionally, we are not that different. We still panic, we still look for comfort when things go wrong, and honestly, that's just part of being human. What is cool, still, is that even every crisis, no matter how tall, kind of pushes us to grow. After the Black Death, people literally start the Renaissance, like new art, new science, new ways of thinking. So maybe the same can happen for us. Maybe COVID will be the moment we look back on and say, that's when we start doing things differently, more conscious, more connect, more real. History doesn't always repeat itself, but it definitely echoes. And the big question is not just what happened, it's what we do next.